The brisk morning wind curled around the steel columns of Chicago O'Hare's Terminal 3, sweeping in with an indifferent chill. At exactly 6:07 a.m., Selena Hartley stepped into the priority boarding lane for Flight 915 to San Francisco. Her movements were precise, her expression composed. She wasn't rushed, nor was she distracted. With a leather passport case in hand and a digital boarding pass clearly marked Seat 1A, first class, Selena exuded the type of quiet authority that often made people pause, though not always in admiration, sometimes in confusion. She didn't wear designer labels. No diamond-studded luggage or monogrammed carry-on. Just a pressed black blazer, dark jeans, ankle boots with modest heels, and a laptop bag worn from use. Her hair was pulled back neatly, her eyes calm. It wasn't the kind of presence people were used to seeing in first class, at least not attached to someone like her. A young black woman, traveling alone, with purpose, but no spectacle. At the check-in counter stood a woman with hair coiled tightly in a bun, lipstick immaculate, her professional smile programmed to perfection. That smile faltered slightly when her eyes landed on the boarding pass. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said, tone clipped but vaguely apologetic. "This lane is reserved for executive or first-class passengers." Selena tilted her chin. Her voice was calm, even. "It is. I am." There was no defiance in her words. No attitude. Only clarity. But clarity in the wrong body often disrupted the status quo. The gate agent hesitated, then forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Let's just double-check that, shall we?" It wasn't surprising. Not anymore. Within moments, two security personnel approached, one holding a clipboard, the other a walkie clipped to his shoulder. Neither appeared aggressive, but their posture was firm, rehearsed. Selena hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't crossed a line or made a scene. Her only offense, it seemed, was standing where many didn't expect her to be. "Ma'am," one said, "can we speak with you for a moment?" She paused. The terminal didn't. People moved around her like she was a piece of furniture out of place, seen, but not considered. Not questioned aloud, just assumed away. "Is there a problem with my ticket?" she asked, her stance straight, her voice unshaken. "Not at all," the taller one replied. "We just need to verify some details." The explanation was hollow. The intent, obvious. They escorted her a few feet away to a side podium. Not out of sight, but just far enough to signal difference. Behind her, a man in a tailored suit walked straight through the same lane with no questions, no hesitation. His boarding pass was barely glanced at. Same line, same gate, different shade. At the podium, they ran her details. Her ID matched. Her seat was verified. Her credentials confirmed. Still, they lingered, scanning her profile as if waiting for the system to offer a justification for their discomfort. Selena remained silent. Eventually, they let her go. No apology, just a nod, like they were doing her a favor. Back at the gate, the woman who doubted her handed back the boarding pass with a perfunctory, "Enjoy your flight," voice taut, civility strained. Selena didn't flinch. She nodded, stepped past the rope, and boarded the plane with the quiet certainty of someone who not only belonged there, but owned her presence. She settled into seat 1A by the window. The cabin smelled faintly of citrus and worn leather. A flight attendant, all polished efficiency, took her coat and offered a polite smile, then hesitated, like she couldn't quite place what didn't feel right. Selena removed an envelope from her bag and placed it gently on her lap. Its gold seal gleamed faintly. She didn't want the airline mimosa. She didn't need breakfast. What she needed was already in motion. Because this wasn't just a flight. It was a test. 3 years earlier, Selena had been named the final decision-maker on a $4.2 billion equity trust founded by her late grandmother, one of the first black women to sit on the board of a Fortune 100 transportation conglomerate. Selena herself was a private strategist, a silent partner in a discreet capital firm. Her role wasn't public. It wasn't meant to be. Her power wasn't in press releases. It was in signatures. And today, her signature would decide the fate of a pending airline merger. The plane hadn't yet left the tarmac when the air around her shifted. Service skipped her row. Water bottles were handed out, with napkins and smiles, to everyone else in first class. Row 1B, 1C, 1D, but not 1A. Selena said nothing. She didn't raise her hand. She didn't clear her throat. She knew what was happening. 20 minutes in, the beverage cart rolled down the aisle. A flight attendant paused across from her, offering champagne to the suited man in 1B. Selena waited for acknowledgement. None came. "Excuse me," she said softly. "May I have a glass of water?" The attendant blinked, startled. "Oh, yes. Just a moment." 10 minutes passed. No water arrived. This wasn't about a drink. This was about presence. About who belonged, and who had to prove it. It happened in boardrooms. In banks. On streets lined with manicured hedges and security gates. It happened in voices that asked, "Are you sure you're in the right place?" It happened with smiles. Polite. Sharp. The gate incident had been Act 1. This was Act 2. Across the aisle, the man in 1B finally removed his headphones. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm used to it," Selena replied. There was no bitterness in her voice. Just knowing. The envelope on her lap remained untouched, but its weight grew heavier. Because what it contained wasn't just financial. It was judgment. Reflection. A mirror of the system they'd just exposed. A tall man with a clipboard, clearly the cabin manager, approached her row an hour into the flight. "Ma'am, can I verify your seat assignment again?" "You already scanned it." "Just protocol." She handed him her phone. He scanned the boarding pass. Her name, her ticket, her loyalty status. All correct. All ignored. His nod was tight. "Thank you," he said. But what he meant was something else entirely. "You don't look like our usual 1A. She didn't react. Didn't argue. She simply existed, fully, unapologetically. Which, in spaces like these, was the loudest act of all. What they didn't know was that the entire flight had been flagged. That an anonymous audit was underway. That Selena Hartley was the compliance verifier sent by the Genesis Trust. And they had just failed. By the time the plane landed in San Francisco, her decision had already been made. At baggage claim, her name echoed over the PA. "Passenger Selena Hartley, please report to Oversight Services, room B17. She followed the signs to a frosted door marked staff only. Inside waited a man in a blazer. His badge read Nathan Voss, Passenger Relations. "Ms. Hartley," he said, "thank you for coming. I wasn't given a choice." They entered a room where silent footage from Flight 915 looped on a monitor. "We have some concerns about the experience on board," Voss began. Selena sat, placed the envelope on the table. "What kind of concerns?" "Well, the crew flagged your behavior as uncooperative, unresponsive, and disruptive to service." Her brows arched slightly. "You mean I asked for water?" Voss cleared his throat. "These reports weren't based on assumptions." "No," she interrupted. "They were based on perceptions." She slid the envelope forward. Inside, final authorization papers for the $4.2 billion merger. "I wasn't on that flight as a customer. I was sent as a verifier. You didn't fail a test. You revealed your culture." Voss paled. "We weren't informed. You weren't supposed to be." Then she opened her phone. Surveillance footage. Audio. Internal logs. Every skipped service. Every remark. "This isn't just about me," she said. "It's about every person you've ever made feel like they didn't belong. Every traveler you dismissed without knowing who they were." Voss's hand shook. "I'll have to call legal." "No," Selena said, standing. "You'll need to call your CEO." She turned at the door. "And next time someone walks onto your aircraft with silence, don't assume she's lost. Assume she owns the silence." By 9:31 a.m., HavenJet's internal alert system lit up. Stakeholder breach. Level 3. The CEO's espresso went cold. He knew the name. Everyone did. Selena Hartley. The name that could collapse or approve their future. In the hours that followed, audits were triggered, training protocols rewritten, employees reassigned. Sloan Everett, the flight's lead attendant, once a star of premium hospitality, was quietly transferred to short-haul domestic flights. The memo read, "Pending ethics review. Do not reassign without compliance approval." Meanwhile, at Genesis Holdings, the footage was logged. The incident cataloged under bias-based business risk. Selena didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. She sat in the executive lounge, watching her phone vibrate. Eastbridge compliance. Merger placed on hold. Awaiting stakeholder directive. She stared at the screen, then closed her eyes. Across the country, boardrooms whispered her name. And when she finally walked into HavenJet's headquarters for the final merger meeting, every executive stood. She placed 2 documents on the glass table. One confirmed funding. The other, a new compliance protocol. "This isn't about me," she said. It's about the system that quietly assumes some people don't belong. Then she left. No cameras, no applause. But her echo remained. Because power doesn't shout. It resonates.